All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm Kari Vääränen from Sofigate. I'm a business executive in Sofigate's PT Backbone business, where we are providing basic IT and cybersecurity services for mid-sized enterprises. And today, I have with me Torbjorn Skantz from Sofigate Sweden, who's a CTO in our platform. I'm also having Olli Haukkovaara, who's a very seasoned cybersecurity expert and has been working as a CISO at several of our customers. And last but not least, we have Rantala, who is leading the cybersecurity business at Cinia. So when I was preparing for the material for this webinar, I found some very interesting information that I thought I would share with you, just to give you some background info what we are talking about today. And let's start with a quiz. I'm not expecting answer from you guys, but just a question. So what are the three largest economies in the world? And according to the World Economic Forum, that is. The answer, which is very shocking, at least to me, is that after USA and China, we have the third biggest economy in the world is cybercrime. And this is huge, and the cybercrime exceeds the economy of the real third largest economy, which is Japan, of course. Also, the cyber crimes are not done by teenage nerds that have nothing better to do anymore. Cyber crime is being run as a serious business. Who do we need to protect ourselves from? So this is how the bad guys are looking. So they are running the pretty much the fastest growing business in the world right now. They are doing active recruitment. Actually, they have their own HR departments that do the recruitment, which also was kind of news for me as so they are real businesses. That's what I'm trying to say. They have very innovative personnel. They are who are figuring out new things, how to approach our people. They are creating new business models. For example, ransomware as a service, which is quite new thing in the world. They are using new technologies, artificial intelligence included. They are operating globally, and they are very often supported by governments. Many of those actors are actually governments, and just they kind of to give you something to think about. I think, and there has been some kind of some news from security organizations that most likely European Union elections are going to be influenced or actually tried to influence by Russia. That's something to look for, let's say. And after everything, these people, these bad people, they are after your money or your data or your IPR. So if you have anything to protect in your, do not go to the last slide yet. Go back. Yeah, thank you. So if you have anything to protect in your business, they are attempting to steal it or damage it or in some other way exploit. So what do we need to protect our businesses from the bad people? Pretty much the same thing. So unfortunately, we need to increase our IT spending. There's no helping it. We need to recruit talented new people. We need to use new technologies, also AI, the operations for cybersecurity need to be 24/7. And luckily, yes, it is also possible to get some subsidies from government, our own governments that are meant to help us to protect ourselves from these bad guys. Go to the next slide, please. And after everything, even if we have very good protection or technology and services to protect ourselves from these criminals, we need to kind of also remember the end users. So do not forget training and taking care of your people in your organization. Okay, next, Ari is going to tell us about the threat landscape in 2024. Go ahead, Ari, please.
Okay, thank you, Kari, and glad to be here. I'm going to talk about a little bit of a threat landscape 2024. Like the topic says, something old, something new, because some of the threats has been lingering around quite some time, but there's also new tricks on the sleeve on criminals. We can start with the threat watch list for this year. So basically, what I have gathered here are some of the topics that you should be focused on during this year and maybe also next year. Things change, but some things stay. Like the ransomware that we are talking a bit more on the coming slides, and also the Akira ransomware, but it's still one of the most disturbing cases that can happen to company when the ransomware hits. And when we talk about more coming slides on the Akira ransomware, they also use this kind of a double extortion. So they will encrypt your data and they will try to also publish the data to have more money from the companies. But also new emerging threat, we could talk about deepfakes. So if you are reading news, there are more and more this kind of artificially created voice and video that they try to attack, so to speak, to the company's users. So of course they use social engineering, but now when you have like 10 seconds, 15 seconds of your company employee's voice, it can be created as artificial intelligence, and it can be used to make fake phone calls or maybe video calls when you have also the people's pictures or some kind of a video in YouTube. And the tools, they are not that expensive anymore. But also this kind of a sentence that use of breached credentials to log in rather than hack in. So criminals definitely try to have users' credentials. Of course, the more powerful credentials they have, they are after the admin credentials that normal users should not ever have. But there are also this kind of a different kind of credentials that just the passwords and the usernames. They are API keys. They are these kind of a tokens, one-time passwords. So this is seen more and more. So when there are security breaches, these kind of leak credentials are most often used in the case. And also when you and the other companies go more and more in the public cloud, this kind of misconfigurations also is one part. And in the last of this slide, we can talk a bit about the supply chain and the third-party risks, because of course it depends on a company. You can have one partner, but the bigger the company, the more partners and you do business with another companies. There can be tens, hundreds of companies that can have integrations to your systems, API integrations, different kind of data flows, and most often doesn't just try to attack directly to the company, or they can also try to circumvent it by attacking maybe the service provider and make their way from there to the company data. You can go ahead. When we talk about ransomware, we can say that ransomware is on the rise. This is a screenshot from the Chainalysis blog and their study of the ransomware attacks. And we can see that these kind of ransomware payments hit more than 1 billion last year. Of course, there is the exception 2022, but if we think about the trend, it is increasing. And like I said, it's still one of the most disturbing attacks that can happen on organizations. And when you are recovering from the ransomware attack, it can take time and money. So be sure to have all the needed backups and training in place, so you are ready if this kind of incidents happens on your organization. And also, I put here the Operation Kronos that happened in the beginning of this year when the law enforcement seized the Lockbit operations. And although it was maybe one of the biggest operation against cybercrime groups and 11,000 seized domains and servers, but it did not, let's say, have that kind of a bigger impact on the scene, so to speak. But glad to see these kind of things happening more and more, and these kind of a big ransomware gangs operations seized. We can go forward. I will talk a bit about the Akira ransomware, and here's also from the same Chainalysis blog from the ransomware. And here you can see on the top right the Akira, and you can see that the ransomware payment size and the frequency of the ransomware payments. When these hit, then the gang is basically on the top right of the picture. So the Akira has been quite profitable with their operations. But what is also surprising, and not maybe many understand that they are not just hitting the big companies. If we think about and check the study from Trend Micro, most of the victims are still smaller companies, so less than 200 employees. But of course, when they do a lot of these kind of breaches, let's say during 7 months, 107 breach organizations, there are some companies that will pay the ransom, and then it's of course profitable for them. But it's clear that you should be prepared, although you are not a big multinational company. You are still at risk, although you have a smaller business operations in place. And we can go a bit more of the Akira techniques and tactics on the next slide. And I'm not going to go any kind of a technical deep dive, but what I want to show here is that is it Akira or something else? They are using these kind of common tools that are maybe already in place on the organization, or the tools that they are using, they are not itself this kind of threats, but combined and do the tactics and techniques. And when you have more context, what is happening on the network and what is normal on your network and what kind of tools your IT admins, system admins are allowed to use, or is the Wild West, then you can be prepared more. But they are like Windows remote desktop protocol that they use to move laterally. They can use AnyDesk agents, admin agents to use the remote access. And when they are, let's say, exporting the data away from the network, they can use common protocols, common tools like WinSCP, FileZilla, and what I want you to have as a summary from this slide is that they are not, any of these tools are, of course, the Mimikatz, but if you think about this Radminer DB, they're common tools that are used in the organizations. And you need to have some kind of a detection capability with efficient context to detect when something bad is happening on the network and when these tools are used combined on the techniques and tactics. On the next slide, we have some of this kind of real-life examples from our Cinia Cybersecurity Operations Center. So this kind of, let's say, top 5 that we see in our operations. And the first one is basically this kind of, let's say, man-in-the-middle kind of attack where someone steals the access tokens of a user, and then although you have the multi-factor authentication, the account can be still breached. So there's this kind of a fake landing pages, and the token is used to access, let's say, the user's email inbox or other software and systems that they are using. Like I said, the business email compromise, when some criminals try to have like social engineering, phishing emails to have this kind of a fake invoices and transfer the money to another account. We see these more and more. And of course, known vulnerabilities that we should really focus on to have the patching times more quicker, and maybe use more automation, artificial intelligence, more on this kind of a patching processes, because it seems that most of the cases we are a bit too late on the patching side. And also the configuration mistakes. So like I said, more and more things are moved to the public cloud, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. And when you operate there, you should focus on configuring things right, because there are good security controls in place already in the platforms, but you need to be sure that everything is configured with the best practice. And before I will give Olli Haukkovaara from Sofigate to go through more of the governance side, I will go some tips from the blue team's perspective in the last slide. So what you should have in place in your organization is, of course, some kind of a capability to monitor, detect, and respond 24/7 on the cybersecurity threats. It can be outsourced SOC, it can be in-house security operations, it can be this kind of a hybrid model. It depends on a company and what suits you best. And of course, have the processes and guidelines, for example, incident response plans, because the incident response should ever be an ad hoc process. Of course, there is a lot of ad hoc when you do incident response, but you still need to have some kind of a plan in place to operate, who to contact, who is the responsible person, who can make decisions, how to contact our internal and external parties, and so on. And combined with that, train your staff, train and do the incident response exercises, and also test your backups, not just looking for the green light that everything seems okay, but when the time comes and you need to actually restore something and you see that, okay, these system files are corrupted and the system cannot work as intended. So test backups. It can be automated. You can do it manually or combined. And also have a good network hygiene segmentation, because when someone breaches the network, they should not be allowed to move there as they want. So there should be segmentation, some kind of a zero trust architecture, if not in place, planned, and move on with that. And also know your assets and know your APIs, that what kind of connections do you have, where, with what parties, which software, do you have any kind of a shadow API, shadow assets, and so on. And maybe in the last, this kind of, let's say, wild card, know your personal attack surface also. So although we use company devices, company laptops, company phones, everyone has some kind of a private social media accounts, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Be aware what you share, with who you share, do you overshare, and what do you talk about your company in your private social media channels, because that can also create one threat vector in your organizations when cyber criminals gather and do their OSINT on the company, that what they can find on the internet from, let's say, from the private profiles and social media of the company employees. But yeah, in that, I'll thank you, and I will toss the ball to Olli Haukkovaara from Sofigate.
Okay, thank you, Ari. Hello, everyone. Yes, I will talk about a bit about the cybersecurity management. Yeah, the security management behind the first line of defense, security operations center and firewalls and etc. is also important. It's basically crucial for all organizations for several reasons. One is the risk management, of course. Cybersecurity governance helps you to grasp and address risks, security risks, and safeguarding your most important assets. So also the protection of data is crucial, of course. Protect them from unauthorized access, misuse, etc. Then the one big thing is the compliance and regulations. Currently we are facing a lot of regulations from EU, for example, NIS 2, CER, DORA, etc. But also the ISO 27001 standard, which is nowadays required from many organizations from their customers. These frameworks ensure compliance and prevent legal issues, and also reputational harm, of course. Fourth bullet is basically the business continuity. They can halt your business and cause big losses, of course. It's important area, for example, from the point of ransomware, that your business continuity is well built and tested, of course. So the last bullets are basically the reputation management. It's very important for your business, of course, because security breaches, they can harm your reputation and customer trust. Then one very important area is the board and business executive oversight. The top management must be aware, and they must want to be aware of what happens in cybersecurity in your organization, because they need to monitor the performance and make decisions regarding cyber risks. Well, then the raise of security awareness, it's very critical also. The human-centric security is something that all organizations must take care of nowadays. People are the first line of defense. We used to say that human is the weakest link in security, but human is also the most important part of security. You need to train your employees continuously. Make them aware of all the risks that evolve and what they can do to prevent those risks to happen. And the last thing is the resource optimization. So when you implement effective governance practices, you can allocate your resources more efficiently, so that ensuring the investments to cybersecurity, they are aligned with business objectives and priorities. So to put this all short, the government creates framework for manage risks, ensure regulatory compliance, protect assets, and maintains resilience against evolving cyber threats. So here you can see the roles of effective cybersecurity governance. In the middle, you will see those red or brown hexagons. There are the CIO, CISO, then the group or your company leadership team, and the head of privacy or data protection officer, as you want to say. They all need to be in the middle because they will manage all the other things regarding security. And these areas are behind these core. In the up, you can see the security and privacy delegates. This means that, for example, CISO cannot handle everything alone. CISO needs to share the security responsibilities throughout the organization and choose people who really are interested in security and give them some responsibility in their area. Security architect is always also needed. When creating something new, you need to plan and take care of security privacy architecture. Then one important part is, of course, 24/7 SOC team who monitors your systems, services, whatever you have there. On the bottom, there is then the security incident response team. When, for example, SOC finds something is happening, the incident response team must handle the incident. Then there is a couple of more hexagons. Risk manager, it's important for any organization. And the legal expert, of course, needed in, I'd say, in worst cases. In many organizations, these can be combined. For example, in some smaller organizations, CIO and CISO, they can be the same person, or CISO and head of privacy can be the same person. But in bigger organizations, these roles are shared to many peoples, basically. But it's good to remember that we have a global shortage of cybersecurity professionals. It has been always shortage in this area. For example, in Finland, we have currently shortage of about 50,000 cybersecurity professionals. It's about the same size in most other countries. So outsourcing these roles is really a viable option, a good solution for most of the companies. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Olli. I will go just briefly through our Cinia and Sofigate cybersecurity services that we have bundled. So basically, Sofigate provides this kind of a business technology services, and we have from Cinia bundled cybersecurity together on this kind of a package. And we offer 24/7 cybersecurity operations center that we operate from Finland. We are heavily invested on Microsoft security technologies there, so we can do this kind of E5 Sentinel part integrations to customers. Incident response planning is included, and we have also capabilities to do digital forensics. And when there are these kind of shared cases, we can do digital forensic incident response with customers. There are also these kind of AI-driven solutions that we can implement with the SOC 24/7 services, and also on top of that, vulnerability management services. So not just detecting the vulnerabilities, that is of course one part of it, but also doing the actual management of the vulnerabilities with customers and with the third parties, so that this kind of a mean time to patch can be decreased. Then there is also more of this kind of a proactive digital risk and threat intel services. So there can be, of course, this kind of open source intelligence that we do to customers. We can use dark web crawling, but also when it comes to the digital risk, we can monitor companies' brands. Are they used right? so that if there are like phishing sites or something that are using the company logos or something else, we can also take down with the service these kind of sites for the customer. And of course, whatever we do, we want to do it with this kind of a cybersecurity partnership. So consulting and development with customer. So this kind of a co-joint operations. And next, Kari will go through more of the Sofigate side.
Yes, so these are the capabilities that we are able to offer to our customers, and I'll start on the left kind of side here from top and go clockwise. So we are able to help our customers with the different cybersecurity governance issues to create processes or help you with kind of getting ISO 27001 and so on. Also, the one thing that is also always important when it comes to processes and practices is to rehearse them. And we are able to support our customers by organizing rehearsals for these processes. Also, we have people that are very good in CISO roles or maybe data protection officer roles. They do not need to be internal people in organizations, not necessarily, and very often it's not always a 100% allocation that is required. We are doing all kinds of assessments, very often together with Cinia. We are able to help in IT risk management, and actually Ari already told you about the 24/7 services that Cinia is providing in our partnership. The one thing that I think we are very good is kind of helping mid-market enterprises with cybersecurity. And it's very important to understand that cybersecurity it's kind of inside everything these companies are doing. So it's not enough to have a kind of SOC in place, but also the, let's say, workstation management needs to be done in such a way that it supports cybersecurity. The updates need to be done in good time and so on and so on. Next, Torbjorn is going to tell you a little bit about the platform security. So please go ahead, Torbjorn.
Thank you, Kari. And I'm obviously coming from the Sofigate platform business, working a lot with our customer that have invested in platforms for running their IT and especially ServiceNow. So as Ari said, right, you can run this on an outsourced movement, or you can also use tools in-house to get your security posture up to speed. Right? And what we normally start with in this is exactly what we discussed before, right? So we need to understand the asset, right? So need to understand what are the actual assets that you have, and not only IT, OT as well, right? Because these are also attack surfaces, and also trying to build service maps to them, right? To see how are they used, what is actually supporting a really critical business service, and what's not using that. So that's normally the start when we engage with customers, right? Building a good repository and understanding the business. And once you have that, you can also work and accelerate your responses. Either it's vulnerability. One common thing that we hear from customers is that we have great vulnerability scanners, but it's hard time remediating all the vulnerabilities, right? So that's where this service comes into place, where we can quickly understand the assets, what the vulnerability is, and set the risk score, and also find the right team to actually address this vulnerability. So this is an integrated offering on the ServiceNow platform with vulnerability scanners. Same way goes for ServiceNow Incident Respond, where cybersecurity incidents can quickly be triaged and secured, and you can throw all kinds of workflows to really be on speed on all of these incidents. And what we also see, as mentioned by Olli, right, the large number of regulations coming across. So we also see a need that if you throw your risk management practice on top of the CMDB and add controls, right, you get a really good understanding on where your weaknesses are, and you get this continuously testing of your security practices, and can also in the end show compliance towards different regulations based on your controls and testing and feedback. So that's it, and we're happy to help if and engage in these matters if you have questions about that. But handing over to you, Christian. Yeah.
Yes, as we discussed today, we can see that cybersecurity cannot really be viewed as only IT problem. It impacts the entire generation and entire business. Everyone in the business and the business leaders must take responsibility. Cybercrimes generates more than $9 trillion in revenue 2024, and as been said, can be considered as the fastest growing business in the world today. Therefore, the importance of cybersecurity governance is very important to ensure both compliance but also risk management strategies and protection of critical data. In a dynamic organizations, there must be roles dedicated to cybersecurity, such as chief information security officers or IT officers that has that type of responsibility. And many companies and organizations lack this expertise in-house, and for that it's necessary so that the companies and organizations can hiring these services from external providers such as Sofigate. And that is where Sofigate comes to assist its clients, both offering wide different services of cybersecurity, such as interim CISO, but it can also be services to cybersecurity organization, but also additionally governance expertise within these areas, risk assessment, 24/7 cybersecurity protection services. And as Torbjorn mentioned as well, to have more platform-based cybersecurity services such as asset management and ServiceNow incident response and vulnerability management. That was what we've been talking about today. But from the people attending, do you have any questions regarding what we've been talking about today, or any concerns that you have about IT security or cybersecurity?
Just posted the kind of the latest news from the city of Helsinki attack.
Yes,
and the attack is quite large. It kind of exposed as many as 120,000 people's information.
Yes.
And the understanding is that a kind of remote access server was left unpatched. And obviously they are still investigating and kind of finding out what exactly happened and what was the breach after all. But the kind of the message is that, hey, things can happen to anyone. And you can really not ignore the cybersecurity in these days, and this is a kind of very acute theme that we have been discussing today. So be safe, everyone.
Yeah, and Kari, this attack on the city of Helsinki, it was considered as one of the biggest attacks in Finland. Am I right?
Yes, very true.
That is
very unfortunate.
Yeah, very big concern. And has been said before, now with the Swedish entering of NATO, the cybersecurity attacks are forecasting to increase as well. We can also see that it has happened with Finnish organizations and companies when after they joined NATO.
And combined with the upcoming European Union elections, I think we are going to see some kind of very interesting action going on in the coming months. So again, just be safe.
Yeah. But yeah, that was everything from us. If you have any questions or any topic that you want to discuss, you can just write to any of us from this panel. And yeah, as Kari said, be safe.
Have a good day, everyone.
Yeah.
Yep.